Hey guys, how's it going? John Monkman here with Beatport. For those of you who aren't familiar with my music, I release on labels such as Kompakt, Ellum, and my own imprint Beatport Music. Today we're going to go through my new song Komplex, which is out now on Anjunadeep. Really the point of today is to kind of go underneath the hood, have a little look, see what synths I use, some of the processing involved, some of the drums involved, really just kind of get an overview on how the thing was put together. So yeah, let's dive in.
But let's just kind of have a listen and see where it's going, and I'll open things up as it's going along, just a kind of general vibe of where we're at. So this is the kick. Bass is a really nice, just really simple tom pattern. Little tweaks on the velocities down here just to kind of give it a little bit of movement change, but still want it to be quite militant, quite straight down the line. Probably the main thing driving this section is this white noise. This is something which, if you know my songs, I play around a lot with. I think that really fills a space. This is a CS80 arpeggiator, which we'll look into in a bit. LFO tool just to kind of give it some movement. Yeah, the whole thing is moving into a delay over here just to kind of add a bit of stereo width and add some movement. This is the main, I guess, theme or arc of the project, which we'll get into. CS80 again. It's nice using the same synths because it gives that kind of, they're in the same family, they work well together. Guys are cool. These are kind of just live takes with a little Moog Voyager and a little bit of Korg Minilog, just at the kind of little moments to give that little push and an extra kind of vibe on the bottom end. But yeah, not too many of them, just adding little bits of pressure here and there. Something I've been playing around with quite a lot recently, which is really letting drum rolls and fills really move across tracks, like not just build-ups, but kind of undulating and pushing throughout the song, almost adding a kind of a bass or percussive rhythm irrigating here. But we'll go back to that in a second. So we're now in the only real drop of the track. Something that was quite straightforward one. I like to have one breakdown, but that's enough. These are some voice sampling, just really subtle, just to kind of add. This song started life as a D minor seventh, so minors are always really nice. You know, you can always rely on them to give this sense of, you know, sadness, melancholic feel, but whilst also feeling kind of hopeful. And, you know, it's not all doom and gloom. There is this kind of light at the end of the tunnel you get with these kind of chords, and which is just so lovely and so strong. This is just really nice discordant sounds in here. Like that. That's where the track kind of began its life. Just playing it now, could probably done a bit more piano, but actually, you know, I didn't want it to be a piano-driven track, but I just wanted to find that initial emotion to kind of give, you know, an idea or a beginning, which I could then start feeding the machines into. The main melodic arpeggiator sequence comes from the CS80. It's one of my favorite synths. It comes from Arturia. It's an emulation of the classic Yamaha CS80. It's an absolute fiend. It really just sounds great. It looks freaking cool too. But really, what I like about it is just, you know, if you're bringing pads from it, it's just a very deep, rich sound. You can create beautiful soundscapes using the arpeggiators, the sequencer, the white noise you can dial in just has some sort of emotion about it. I really gel with this guy. The lead in question that we're looking at or listening to is this guy. It's the main drop. I really like that moment. It kind of flips on itself when there's the beat behind it. It kind of builds up and then kind of really focuses on that arpeggiating movement. So once I found the sound that I really like, I'll usually spend some time just getting to know what the parameters do. You know, the basic parameter doesn't need to be kind of you know, heavy synthesis here. I think what's key is that you just have an understanding of what the key knobs do. Maybe if you have 5 or 6 kind of nuances that you can just flare out or have some fun with, because that's in the end what's going to kind of give the various moments in the track where you want to bring drama. That's when you're going to really be able to kind of do that if you know how to do it. So it's just worth spending some time doing that. But if we just kind of go through it, I'll show you the various little fun parameters that I kind of came up with on the synth, which are good to tweak. So there's this really nice filter here, which is one of the reasons I love this synth. It's quite hard. Again, the white noise. Really hits that kind of mid-high frequencies. And the synth, which is really unique to this guy, is this feed section down here. Love that. You just add these little moments where everything kind of loses itself. Underneath that, there's this kind of supporting kind of twinkle. It's not really, it kind of comes in and out of the track. It's really subtle. Really cool sound at the beginning that just kind of, I don't know, it kind of stirs things up almost. It kind of gives you a taster maybe to what's to come. Let's play in context. It's really subtle, it just kind of sets the mood a little. One of the key elements of the track is this just really simple arpeggiator that just runs underneath the kick and bass. I just wanted something kind of that pulses, stay consistent, didn't automate or around the track, and it's this guy. Really sits nicely with the kick and the tom bass, kind of moves within it, doesn't really interrupt it, but adds this kind of movement. Again, kind of almost like someone stirring a pot. Okay, let's have a little look what's happening with the kick and bass. It's not necessarily a bass, it's more of it is a tom pattern, an 808 tom pattern. Let's have a quick little listen to it. Okay, pretty straightforward. Let's have a little look what's going on. If I look at so this is just the Ableton 808. It's got a really nice sound to it. The key is to tune it to your kick. Try and get the two talking, working together. That's what you want. That's what I was looking for in this kind of kick and bass. So you want it to kind of sit under the kick. So I kind of often take a bit of the top off. Some of these kind of tom basses, you'll often take a lot more of the high off. That sounds nice. You can really bring it low. Often, I haven't done this track, you often kind of create a sub-octave of the pitch, just to kind of add some more meat downstairs, but so that can often take away from the mid-range kind of knock. So you've got something to play with. It's kind of sometimes a different kind of song when you've got a big sub down there as opposed to hitting in your chest. That's very kind of deep, whereas when you bring it up, it's a bit more upbeat. It's a bit more kind of it's kind of keeping you on your toes a bit more. Something I've been doing recently a lot is just long drum fill automations over the track. It's a really interesting way of getting movement, especially in the bottom end. What I found is actually just instead of using a bass line, or sometimes you want to create that maybe 16th movement, and again, it doesn't have to be a straightforward 16th kind of MIDI programmed notes. Do what you want, but that's what I've done here. And so let's get that going again. Let's get the kick and bass maybe. Just turn it down a little bit. What I found really nice is when you get some more bottom end in there. So yeah, lots of fun to be had with the 909 and I mean any drum synth or any sound, you use that same idea with hats. It's really about committing to a sound. It turns something which could be quite static into a bigger concept that kind of becomes entwined with the song and becomes an instrument in its own right. So we've got the kick and bass doing its thing. We've got the white noise pushing things around, and then there's the .909. So that's all really kind of pushing forward and doing nice things. So all that was really needed was just a little kind of hat, just to kind of pick things up a little bit. So just some of the usual kind of processing, a bit of compression, a bit of EQ, just bringing up the frequency bands that you want. Something that's always fun with hats, actually, again, lots of sounds is just putting a vocoder on top and playing with the release. I'd say one of the main elements, or like the main parts of the track, is actually just this kind of mid-range white noise that fluctuates throughout the song. That's what it sounds like. Really simple. It's, but what I found with this kind of white noise, and you listen to a lot of my music, it has this, is that it really drives songs forward. It sometimes often means you don't need to reach for a snare or a clap or certain hats. It just kind of fills that space nicely. So the way I often make white noise is probably a bit over the top in terms of the kit, but I love Massive. I've always been a huge user of it. It's just super solid. I know there's the new X, which I'm looking forward to getting stuck into, but this was done before that release. So yeah, what I like to do is I kind of ignore the actual oscillator section and just bring in just a really simple just the noise. What's really nice about Massive is that it has these different kinds of noise. You've got these guys which are kind of more hatty. That's cool. Paper one's nice. Really textured sounds which can be used for nice ambient sounds, but for this, it's going for this kind of quite tight, hatty movement. So it kind of does this little bit of EQ with the inbuilt EQ just to kind of give it a little boost in the top. And then envelope 4, which is usually the default envelope, unless you've changed it. Just really bringing it so it kind of works for you. And again, a bit like using the CS80, you just want to get happy with whatever patch you're playing with, that you just know what to do. So when there's a little bit of a moment, you can just ping it out, and it's simple. But if you can do it quickly, it just means that you kind of know where you're at. Some small little bits, but are still quite interesting, is just these little kind of bass stabs that happen at certain moments in the song. They kind of just accentuating little moments. I often do this, and again, kind of coming back to the kick and bass, the kind of in a sense, the hollowness of the tom, kind of gives space for, or allows space for, other lower frequencies, which is nice to to fill. So this is more of a kind of a mid-range guy. This is from the Voyager. Just little tiny subtle things. And as the track goes on, there's a bit more serious guys down here. So yeah, let's flip to the Moog and maybe see how that sound was made. So I usually start with just making sure the sound of the oscillator 1 is how I want that. So right now that's too siny, got a bit of a saw wave. It's nice. And the key to this sound is really having the second oscillator in. So bring that in. Okay, that's nice. Okay, that's cool, but there's more movement to be had. If we start moving the frequency, it just starts getting it too detuned, and that's not the sound I want. So what I like to do is sync 1 and 2, and you instantly get this kind of acid, heady, weird thing going on, which allows you to move the frequencies. Definitely nice to play with the waveform to find out which, what you're looking for. Definitely get different results. Can really be nice and raspy. Really bring out the bottom end and that kind of mid-range. It's nice. So one thing to quickly touch base on is the vocal element in the track. I sampled a section of audio from an a cappella. I didn't want a big over-empowering lead vocal, anything with words or anything too descriptive, so I've just kind of chopped up this vocal. And it really just sits on top of the music, kind of accentuating it, helping it along, just adding something, but not too dominant. So one of the things I use a lot in my music are tape delays to move things around, to create little moments, to using feedback to push sections in. I actually use the Logic tape delay a lot. It's just so great. It's one of the reasons I actually haven't upgraded the Logic, is they've changed the interface and I haven't got my head around it, so I've kind of gone back. But it's such a great tool. So this is just going into the breakdown. So we've got it's a pretty classic tape delay. It's nothing too crazy going on there, but it's just a really nice delay. You can really have some fun of it. Just for example, if we just solo it here. Usually when the track's kind of 95% done, I'll bounce everything to audio. What this does, it just forces me to commit to what I've got. It makes the final edit much snappier. It frees up a lot of power on the computer, so you just maybe left with whatever 30 stems, 50 stems, whatever it is, but it just means that your computer is just everything's fresh, everything's moving. It just that can be really nice, especially when you get to the end of a project. It's the same, same setup that we had in Ableton, but just in Logic. I've used Logic for really is kind of the first DAW that I was using when I first started doing this. So I've for me, it's kind of like home. So at this stage, what's nice is really it's when you start kind of getting into the nitty gritty of kind of taking things that one step further. And I think one of the key things to do at this stage is really get into your gain automation. It's about making sure that the idea you have, whether it's a lead sound, an arpeggiator, or a vocal, that really comes through, and that your idea, your concept, is realized. And I think this is where the lines start blurring between someone's like, oh, he's a music producer, or the artistic or creative decisions. They all start blurring into this kind of really fun technical meets creative decision making process, which so people often think, how do you get that sound? It's more, a lot of it's about decision in the mix and how you want certain sounds to come out. At this stage of the song, it's just about really pimping stuff up, getting the, making sure things are crispy, making sure there's not, certain frequencies are getting in the way, and hopefully just adding some kind of little bit of magic dust to kind of bring things really that extra step up. I love the Neve 1073 by UAD. It's a really there's not a song I haven't made in the last 8 years that I haven't used this on. The kind of the air it gives, and especially the kind of on here it's 4.8, but roughly 5k boost is just, it always hits the spot for me. Maybe that's just what I'm looking for. So it's a personal taste, but it just really is a nice thing. Just brings it outside the box. You can really push the CQ without it distorting or sounding harsh. It really adds a kind of musicality to your music. It's used a lot on vocal takes for that reason. So if you have this beautiful synth part, in this case a kind of sequence arpeggiator, which can kind of sit in the vocal ranges, then these kind of airy 10 to 12k boosts with the 5k boost really hit that nice space. Really subtle, but just nice finishing touch.
Nice one, guys. We made it. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully it was insightful and you got a bit more of an understanding in terms of how the song was put together. If you do have any questions or queries, feel free to put them in the comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah, all the best and happy writing.